Rain clouds hovered over South River Plaza, like a warning that no one heard. Saturday traffic rolled slow, horns soft as sighs, vendors calling over the hum of engines. Nia stood under the shade of a jacaranda tree with a paper that smelled of ink and shame. It was the school's second notice, stamped in red: tuition overdue. She folded it twice to stop her hands from shaking. An hour earlier, Darius had promised to meet her here, just for a minute. He had told her the night before that he had nothing left: business dry, clients slow to pay, bank accounts lean as bones. "Give me 1 more week," he said. "Let the school wait." He spoke with the kind of tired confidence that had made Nia believe him too many times. She knew how to stretch a pot of jollof, how to turn the same blazer into work clothes for 3 days, how to smile so the twins, Maya and Malik, would not feel the tremor in the house. Now she watched him at the far end of the plaza, standing beside a pearl-white sedan that still wore the thin plastic on its seats. The car gleamed babylike under the weak sun. She knew Darius loved clean lines and quiet engines, things that did not argue with him. He wore his slate suit, the one he pulled out when he wanted to look like a promise. He was laughing, shoulders relaxed, a laugh she had not heard at home for months. A woman leaned against the new car, tall, smooth brown skin, red dress that fit like it had been made by hands that understood desire, sunglasses like a shield. She tucked a braid behind one ear and looked up at Darius as if there were only 2 people in the world. Nia felt a cold tide rise from her ankles to her throat. He held up a key fob between 2 fingers, the way men hold trophies. The woman clapped once, a quick, sharp sound that cut through the plaza's noise. He reached for her hand. No, he reached for both of her hands and pressed the fob into her palms. The car chirped like a small bird recognizing its owner. For a few seconds, Nia could not breathe. She stood perfectly still, like the tree behind her had rooted her to the earth. A line from last night repeated itself. "Nia, I'm doing everything. There's just no money." No money. No money to pay for Maya's speech therapy sessions. No money for Malik's basketball camp. No money to stop the school from sending emails that felt like slaps. But there, in this ordinary plaza under ordinary clouds, he gave another woman a new car. The woman stretched out one leg and admired her reflection in the spotless door. Darius opened the driver's side with a flourish, bowing a little in that playful way that had once made Nia say yes to him, yes to forever, yes even when her mother warned her that charm was a short loan. Nia's phone was still in her pocket. She pulled it out like a tool. Her thumb shook, but she found the camera. The screen framed them clearly: Darius, the car, the red dress, the smile that used to be hers. She hit record. "Come on in," Darius said, loud enough that the words drifted to where Nia stood. "It's yours." "Darius," the woman laughed, letting his name pour out like syrup. "You are ridiculous." "I keep my word." Nia heard it like a curse. She zoomed in. The woman took off her sunglasses, and for a heartbeat, Nia felt a sting of recognition, a ghost tapping at a closed door in her memory. But the woman turned too quickly, and the moment passed. A vendor selling plantains walked between them, and the camera caught the bright yellow of his tray. He glanced at Nia, read her face, and moved on. Darius slid into the passenger seat. The woman got behind the wheel, still laughing. The engine hummed, smooth as silk. Nia swallowed the knot in her throat and kept filming. This wasn't just hurt, it was evidence. She was a mother with twins and a deadline, and the world had taught her that a mother must collect everything she can, receipts, messages, every small proof that what she feels is not madness. The car turned slowly from its parking spot. The woman braked, leaned across Darius, and pressed the window button. Glass sank. "How do I look?" she asked the plaza, as if everyone were an audience. "Perfect," Darius said. Nia had seen enough. She stepped away from the tree and into the band of light that fell across the lot. She held the phone steady, framing their faces, framing the car. The first drops of rain began to fall. Thin, testing drops that left coin-sized marks on the pavement. She was 20 feet away when Darius saw her. His smile vanished like a candle snuffed by fingers. He sat up straight, shoulders folding in. The woman, curious, followed his eyes and turned her head. Nia kept walking, her heels tapping a steady beat. She wasn't a woman who fought in public. She wasn't a woman who screamed. But she had spent nights doing the math, cutting every corner, smiling for the children, waiting for good news that never came. Something had changed inside her the first time the school called her at work and used the word suspension. That day she promised herself she would no longer be the quiet shore where his storms made landfall. She would be the storm. "Darius," she said, stopping by the hood. "Say it again. Say there's no money." He opened his mouth, but the words took a long road. "Nia, this isn't..." "Isn't what?" Her voice stayed calm. The camera in her hand was a third eye. The woman in the driver's seat looked from Nia to Darius with a lazy kind of interest, like someone watching a trailer for a movie she might not finish. She smiled, small and unkind. "Turn off the engine," Nia said to the woman. "This car belongs to my children's future until the school gets paid." The woman laughed. "Your children's future?" She tasted the words. "Honey, this car is not about you." "It is," Nia said, "because he told me 24 hours ago that he had nothing." She nodded at the sedan. "But here we are." Darius rubbed his forehead. "Nia, be reasonable." "What do you call reasonable?" Nia asked. "Tuition notices with red stamps or car keys with red dresses?" A small crowd had formed. The plantain seller, a security guard with a tired belt, 2 teenage boys with bicycles, a mother balancing a baby on her hip. Rain dotted their shoulders. The plaza had become a stage. "Please," Darius said, voice quiet now. "Let's not do this here." The woman's hand rested on the wheel. She finally spoke with her eyes still on Nia. "You are brave to come like this. I'll give you that." "That's not bravery," Nia said. "That's hunger. A mother's hunger is louder than shame." The woman tilted her head. "Well, hungry people should learn to pick their battles." Nia moved closer, enough to see the fine powder on the woman's cheek, the neat line of her eyeliner, the small scar by her jaw, a scar that tugged at Nia's memory again. Where had she seen it? A childhood fall? A family party? A photo in a frame? "Get out of the car," Nia said, her voice low. The woman's smile grew, not kinder. "You really don't recognize me, do you?" Time slowed. The rain thickened. Darius shifted in his seat, a warning moving through his body. Nia felt her heartbeat press against her ribs. The scar, the laugh, the way she tucked a braid behind her ear. She searched the woman's face the way one searches a dark room for a familiar shape. She counted the years. She counted the last time she had felt this mixture of anger and disbelief. And then the memory turned on all at once. A graduation photo with 2 sisters holding hands. A family barbecue where music ran late. A small fight about borrowed shoes. A younger face with the same eyes, the same lazy smile after winning an argument. The woman slid off her sunglasses completely. Without the dark glass, the truth stood naked. "Hey, big sister," the woman said softly, almost tender. "Long time." Nia stumbled back 1 step as if the earth had pushed her. Her fingers tightened around the phone so hard the record button turned into a red sun. Darius reached for the window switch as if he could roll up the moment and hide inside the glass. His voice came out thin. "Nia, listen." "Zuri," Nia whispered. The name fell from her mouth like something too heavy to hold. "Zuri?" Her younger sister smiled the way she used to smile when their father called only one of them to share a secret. "You always were slow to see what's right in front of you." A sound rose from the small crowd, the kind of soft shock people make when a story takes a turn. The rain began to spill without caution now, the sky letting go. Nia looked at her husband. He wouldn't meet her gaze. She looked at her sister. Zuri turned the engine again, letting the purr fill the spaces where apologies should have lived. The security guard took a cautious step forward. "Madam, maybe we should—" Nia lifted a hand, stopping him, her eyes never leaving the car. She steadied her breath and took another step closer until she could smell the new leather, the perfume, the lie. "You gave a car to my sister," Nia said, voice flat with clarity. "After telling your family there was no money." Zuri leaned back, tapping the wheel with one nail. "Correction," she said. "He gave a car to a woman who believes in him." The twins' school notice crinkled in Nia's pocket like a heartbeat. She knew then that everything she thought was solid was only vapor waiting for wind. The plaza, the rain, the crowd, the world narrowed to this car and these faces. Nia lowered her phone from the level of their eyes to the small silver badge on the trunk. She read the model name. She noted the dealer frame around the plate. She memorized it all. Then she raised the phone again and said, clear enough for the recording to catch every syllable, "Darius, you have 10 minutes to transfer the full tuition before I send this video to your mother, your pastor, your clients, and—" She looked at Zuri. "Our mother." Zuri's smile finally cracked. The sedan jolted forward an inch, a reflex under Zuri's foot, and the crowd flinched. Darius grabbed the emergency brake. "Nia," he said, eyes wide with a newborn fear she had never seen in him. "Don't—" But his phone buzzed on the console before he could finish. He looked down. The screen flashed an incoming call from a number that froze the blood in his face. The caller ID read, "Mrs. Ebeli Chukwu, school bursar." Zuri's eyes flicked to the screen, then to Nia. The rain drummed harder. Nia watched a bead of water slide down the windshield like a tear that belonged to none of them. Darius answered with trembling fingers. "Hello?" The bursar's voice carried through the car speakers, loud and official. "Mr. Okafor, this is a final courtesy. If your children's fees are not received by 4 o'clock today, we will remove them from Monday's class list and notify the district." The plaza fell so quiet that even the rain seemed to listen. "Do you understand?" the bursar asked. Darius swallowed. "Yes," he said, but his voice broke on the single syllable. "Good," she said. "And Mr. Okafor," her tone turned sharp, "we have just received new information about a significant purchase in your name." Nia's eyes snapped to the phone. Zuri's hands froze on the wheel. "What purchase?" Darius asked, his voice now a whisper. The bursar paused, as if choosing a blade. "A vehicle," she said. "Registered yesterday. Someone just emailed us the proof." The red light on Nia's camera kept burning. The moment held its breath. "Who sent the proof?" Darius asked, panic rising. The bursar's answer slid out cool as night. "Your wife." Nia didn't speak. She didn't need to. The call ended. The car engine hushed. The crowd waited. Zuri's eyes darkened. "You always did like to play big, Nia." She reached toward the glove compartment, fingers quick, as if reaching for something more than napkins or manuals, something that could change everything again. The compartment clicked open. Inside, on top of a neat stack of papers and a small velvet pouch, lay a sealed envelope with Nia's name written across it in Darius's careful hand. Zuri froze. Darius went pale. And Nia, wet to the skin, stared at her own name on that envelope lying in a car that was never meant to be hers. The security guard took another step, unsure. The crowd leaned in. The rain roared. Zuri looked from the envelope to Darius. "What is that?" Darius's lips parted, but no sound came. Nia reached out slowly, rain dripping from her fingers, and touched the edge of the envelope with her nail. It did not move. "Open it," she said. Zuri's jaw tightened. Her hand hovered, then closed. The glove box light threw a yellow glow across the paper, like a small stage light. She slid her nail under the seal. And before the flap lifted, a black SUV swung into the plaza, tires hissing on wet stone, tinted windows reflecting the storm. It stopped behind the sedan with deliberate calm. The back door opened. A man stepped out in a dark suit, a man both sisters knew from family gatherings and business dinners, a man who never arrived anywhere without a reason. It was Darius's brother, the one who kept the books. The man from the SUV closed his umbrella before the rain finished folding off the edges. He walked like someone who counted his steps and always arrived at the right number. The crowd parted for him without being asked. Up close, his suit was neat but not loud, the tie a quiet navy. His face was the same as Darius's, only firmer, like a line redrawn with a ruler. "Chica," Nia said, steadying herself. "You came fast." "I was already near South River," he said, voice low, eyes moving from the car to Nia to Darius. "I got your message, and then the bursar's email. What is this?" Rain ran off the hood in thin silver strings. Zuri's hand hovered over the opened glove box, fingers still touching the sealed envelope with Nia's name. Her lipstick had bled a little along the bottom curve. She watched Chique the way a cat watches a closed door, ready to run if it opens the wrong way. Darius tried to step out, but Chique lifted 2 fingers, a small sign that said wait. It worked. Darius sank back like a student told to sit. "Nia," Chique said softer, "are you okay?" "No," she answered, plain and honest, "but I will be." Chique nodded once. He leaned into the open window. "Darius, you told the school there was no money, told our mother there was no money, told your wife there was no money." He pointed his chin at the car. "Yet you are here." "It's not what it looks like," Darius said, "the oldest lie in any plaza." Chique breathed in through his nose like he was smelling rain that promised trouble. "It looks like fraud," he said, "and disrespect." Zuri rolled her eyes. "Accounting talk. How boring." Chique's gaze finally moved to her. "Zuri Adebayo," he said quietly, "we've met." "Not like this," she said, smiling without warmth. "Not like this," he agreed. The security guard took another step back. Even the teenagers with bikes fell silent, sensing grown folk business. Somewhere a generator coughed, trying to catch. Nia tapped the edge of the envelope with one finger. "Open it," she told Zuri again, not raising her voice. Zuri's lips made a small shape of annoyance, but she slid the nail under the seal and tore it clean. Inside was a thin stack of papers, folded once. A soft scent of new ink rose up like the smell of a lie just born. She passed the papers to Nia, quickly, as if wanting them off her skin. Nia unfolded them with careful hands. The first page was a dealership invoice. The model, the trim, the color, the VIN, the price, everything written in tidy blocks. The second page was worse, a transfer receipt from a college savings account, not a general account, a 529 plan. Maya and Malik's names were printed at the top like a headline. Beneath that, an electronic signature, her full name, Nia Okafor, curved the way her hand curved, but not quite. It was a mirror that missed one detail. The loop of her O was wrong. Her fingers shook. "This is my name," she said, and then more quietly, "but this is not my signature." Chique took the papers gently, the way one takes a baby before it falls. He scanned the lines with eyes that had counted thousands of numbers and caught hundreds of mistakes. He exhaled. "This transfer," he said, tapping the receipt, "cleared yesterday afternoon. The funds went from the children's 529 to a dealer escrow. It bounced through a holding account first." He lifted his head and looked at Darius. "A holding account you opened last month." Darius pressed his palms together as if prayer could push back time. "Chique, listen." "I listened to you for a year," Chique said, the warmth draining from his words. "About clients who delayed, about the city permit that never came through, about the investor who promised and disappeared. I held your notes. I called your vendors. I moved dates for you. But this," he shook the papers once, "this is not a delay. This is theft." Zuri laughed once, a dry sound. "Enough sermon. If he paid for the car, what is the issue? He will pay the school too." Rain softened, as if the sky itself leaned closer to hear. The plantain seller shifted his tray to the other shoulder, eyes wide. A mother in a yellow raincoat pulled her child in front of her, the child's small hand clutching a pink juice box. Cheek didn't look at Zuri. He stayed on Darius. "Where's the rest of the money?" he asked. "The transfer was larger than this invoice. Where is the balance?" Darius didn't answer. His eyes slipped to the velvet pouch in the glove box and back, like a boy looking at candy after stealing bread. Cheek reached in and picked up the pouch. It was heavier than it looked. He loosened the drawstring and poured the contents into his palm. A key fell out. Another key fob, this one black with a gold logo Nia didn't recognize, and a flash drive, small and dark, as if it hoped not to be seen. The crowd whispered. Even whispers traveled like stones thrown in water. "What is that?" Nia asked. Darius found his voice. "Work files," he said too quickly. "Nothing." Cheeky closed his hand around the drive like he had just caught a fly. "I'm taking this." "Give it back," Darius said, panic flashing beneath the words. "You can't." "I can," Cheek said. "I keep the books." The moment stretched thin. Somewhere far off a siren tested the air. Nia's gaze drifted to the tiny glare of the dealership frame on the rear plate. She had spent years in rooms where bills whispered louder than music. She had worked double shifts. She had cut coupons. She had smiled at birthdays with one cake instead of two because, "We can share, baby. We can always share." She was done sharing what wasn't fair. "How long?" she asked suddenly, turning to Zuri. "How long have you been with my husband?" The question settles into the rain like a stone into a bucket. Zuri lifted her chin. "Long enough to see his true face. Long enough to help him breathe when you kept drowning him in problems he couldn't solve." Nia blinked. "Problems like his children's school?" Zuri shrugged. "It's only money. You people act like it's heaven." Cheek let out a sound that might have been a laugh if it had any joy in it. "Money is not heaven," he said, "but it's oxygen. You don't burn it in a parking lot while your kids are gasping." He turned to Nia and lowered his voice. "There is more you need to know." The rain slowed to a mist. The plaza smell turned to wet dust and fried dough. The crowd pushed even closer. "Not here," Darius cut in. "Cheek, don't do this here." "Here is where you brought it," Cheek replied. He handed Nia the invoice again, then pointed to a small stamped line at the bottom. "Look at the payer name," he said. She squinted. The big text had shouted so loud she had not noticed the small one. There, in gray ink like a whisper, sat the words, "Payor, Okafor Family Education Trust, Temporary Custodian, D. Okafor." Nia's hand went cold. The trust had been her mother's gift when the twins were born, a hard-earned pot built from years of cleaning houses, braiding hair on weekends, and saving like saving was a sport. The trust was simple. Nia was the custodian. No withdrawals without her signed approval, and a second sign from the credit union manager who had known her since she was 18. "How did you touch this?" she asked, voice sandpaper. Darius stared out of the windshield like the answer might be written in the rain. "It was only to move things around," he said, but the words came out small. "I meant to put it back. A deal was closing. I just needed a bridge." Cheek shook his head. "The bridge went to a car," he said, then quieter, "and to rents." "Whose rents?" Nia asked, but she already knew, because hurt knows how to read in the dark. Zuri rolled the papers back toward the glove box with one finger. "This is getting tired," she said. "People love to talk when they don't understand the weight a man carries." "The weight he carries?" Nia repeated. "What about the weight two children carry when they are sent home from school? What about the weight of a mother calling to ask why her grandbabies are not in class? What about the weight of me every day doing the math with tears in my mouth?" Zuri didn't flinch. "You should have worked harder," she said. The words hit like a slap that didn't need a hand. For a long second, even the rain forgot how to fall. Cheek made a small movement with his head, the kind men make to keep their hands by their sides. He breathed, steady. "Darius," he said, "we're going to the bank now. We're going to freeze the holding account. We're going to call the credit union manager and report identity fraud. We're going to call Pastor James because he will hear about this anyway, and he'll keep our mother from collapsing when she does. You're going to transfer whatever liquid cash you have to the school." Darius rubbed his eyes. "There is no liquid." "There is," Cheeky said. He lifted the flash drive. "I have seen your hidden streams. You forgot I taught you how to hide them." The teenagers with the bikes grinned at each other like they had just watched a twist in a Nollywood film. The security guard cleared his throat, more to remind himself he was still part of the scene than to say anything useful. Nia folded her arms, hugging herself for warmth. She looked at her sister, not at the dress or the hair or the eyes that had once matched hers in mirrors, but at the place under the skin where choices sit. "Zuri," she said, "you can step away from this and walk with me, or stay and drown with him. Decide now." For the first time, the smug line at Zuri's mouth trembled. She looked at Darius, and he looked back like a man on a boat pointing at a lifebuoy he himself had thrown away. Something moved behind Zuri's eyes, fear, maybe, or a shadow of the girls they once were, sharing chin-chin on the back steps while their mother braided neighbors' hair. Thunder rumbled so far away it was more memory than sound. The plaza's traffic started to breathe again at the edges. A delivery truck coughed. The siren that had been somewhere else found the plaza at last. Blue and red light washed across wet stone, across faces and glass, and the white hood of the sedan. It colored the papers in Nia's hands like a warning flag. Zuri straightened. Her hand slid from the wheel to her stomach. It was a small motion, but it changed the sky. She looked at Nia. When she spoke, her voice had lost its iron. "I can't step away," she said, and for the first time there was something like fear in her tone. I'm 4 months." The plantain seller whispered, "Chineki." Darius closed his eyes, Cheek's jaw set like a door. Nia's breath left her in a single push, as if someone had knocked at her chest from the inside. She had wanted truth. Now it poured like rain. "You're pregnant," she said, making the words simple so it would not rip her mouth. Zuri swallowed. "Yes." The police car slid to a stop behind the SUV. An officer stepped out and lifted his hat against the mist. He looked from the papers to the faces to the white car that didn't belong to any piece. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, plain. Cheeky raised one palm in greeting, still calm. "Officer," he said, "there is a financial matter. We have proof in hand." Nia didn't take her eyes off Zuri. The sister she had danced with at weddings. The sister she had defended when their father stayed too long at the bar. The sister who now held a new life like a shield. The officer's radio crackled. The plaza held its breath again. Chike turned to Nia, lowering his voice for her alone. "There's one last thing I didn't say," he murmured. "The trust. Mama added a clause last year. If funds are misused, the court can appoint a new custodian and lock out the current one. I filed the pre-notice yesterday." Nia looked at him, not understanding. "Why?" "Because," he said, eyes on Darius, "I saw this coming." Before she could answer, before the officer could ask another question, before the crowd could decide which way the story would turn, the white sedan's dashboard lit with a message none of them expected. A soft ping, then words across the screen like a whisper from a machine. Remote title update received. Owner, NIA Okafor. Zuri's mouth opened. Darius stared. Chike leaned in. Nia, wet to the skin and shaking with something bigger than fear, looked at the glowing words on the car that had tried to be a promise. Somewhere, a door opened in the credit union or the county clerk's office, or the cloud where files live. Somewhere, a hand that loved her had moved pieces she didn't know existed. Somewhere, someone had changed the story. And then Cheek's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his eyes widened. He turned it so Nia could see the message from an unknown number, a single line that shifted the ground under all of them. Check the second envelope under the spare tire. The officer tapped his notepad, waiting for someone to explain why a car was glowing with ownership papers that contradicted the scene. But nobody spoke. All eyes shifted to Cheeky's phone, to the cryptic message that had just arrived. "Second envelope under the spare tire," Nia read aloud, her voice trembling between suspicion and hope. Darius blinked rapidly, like a man trying to wake from a nightmare. "What? What second envelope? Who even knows about this?" Zuri, her hand still resting lightly on her belly, frowned. "That's impossible. Nobody but you and I." She stopped herself. The slip of her tongue made the crowd lean in. Cheek slid his phone back into his pocket. "I don't believe in coincidences," he muttered. Then louder to the officer, "Sir, with your permission, we'll need to check the trunk." The officer, sensing the air heavy with truth and lies, nodded. "Go ahead. I'll supervise." The security guard stepped closer, curious. The plantain seller, drenched but unwilling to leave, balanced his tray on the hood of another car just to watch. Darius tried to protest. "This is not necessary. This is—" "Open it," Nia cut in, her voice sharper than any blade. The key fob still sat in Zuri's lap. She pressed the trunk release. A mechanical whir lifted the back of the sedan. The officer gestured. "Let's have it." Cheeky walked around, his shoes slicing ripples in the shallow puddles. He lifted the carpet cover in the trunk. The spare tire sat snug, but taped beneath it was indeed a brown envelope, sealed, damp around the edges from condensation. Cheek peeled it off and brought it forward, rain dripping down his sleeve. He handed it straight to Nia. "It has your name. You open it." Nia's fingers shook as she tore the seal. Inside was a stack of photocopies, bank statements, deeds, correspondence letters. The top page bore a letterhead she recognized instantly. Ezekiel Cumber-Chambers, her late father's lawyers. Her eyes raced over the words. Custodian Update, Family Education Trust. Effective immediately, should funds be misappropriated by Darius Okafor or any agent connected to him, control of all remaining assets reverts solely to Nia Okafor. This condition is triggered by breach of fiduciary duty. Supporting evidence attached. Nia froze. "This was written months ago," she whispered. Cheeky scanned the papers quickly, nodding grimly. "Father suspected something before he passed. He left protection." The officer leaned closer. "So you're saying this car was bought with misappropriated funds?" "Yes," Cheeky said without hesitation. Darius stepped out now, soaked but desperate. Listen. I only borrowed it. I was going to put it back when my deal closed. You know I always have deals brewing. This was temporary." "Temporary?" Nia snapped, her eyes blazing. "You drained your children's education trust for a car you handed to my own sister." "Temporary," the crowd murmured. The plantain seller shook his head in disgust. Zuri crossed her arms, defiant but with a flicker of fear. "Stop dramatizing. Darius loves his family. He just needed someone who believed in his dreams. You never understood him, Nia. You always weighed him down with demands, school fees, bills, responsibilities." Nia's voice cut through the plaza. "Responsibilities? They are his children, Zuri. They didn't ask to be born. They didn't ask for tuition notices stamped in red. You think believing in a man means stealing bread from his children's mouths?" The officer scribbled in his notebook. "This is looking serious. I might need to call for backup if this is financial fraud involving trust funds." Darius's face collapsed. He reached for Nia, his voice breaking. "Please, don't do this. Don't destroy me in front of everyone. Let's go home. We can talk inside, away from these eyes. I'll fix it, I swear." But Nia pulled back. For the first time, she wasn't trembling. The weight of years of sacrifice, humiliation, and silence lifted into something else. Steel. "No, Darius," she said firmly. "You already destroyed yourself, and you did it when you chose a car over your children." Thunder cracked, as if the sky agreed. Cheek held up the flash drive again. "This has more, I'm sure of it. Hidden accounts, maybe even more purchases." He looked at the officer. Will you escort us to the station? We need this documented properly." The officer nodded. "Yes, but first we'll impound this car. Evidence." At that, Zuri suddenly gripped the wheel tighter, her knuckles pale. "No one is taking this car," she hissed. "Zuri," Nia said, eyes steady. "Let go. This isn't yours. It never was." Zuri's chest rose and fell quickly. Her eyes darted to the crowd, to the officer, then back to Nia. And then, with a sharp movement, she jammed the gear into drive. The sedan lurched forward, splashing water, the crowd scattering with gasps. The officer shouted, "Stop the car!" Nia staggered back, but her eyes stayed locked on her sister's face through the windshield. And in that 1 second she saw it, not defiance, not victory, but pure, raw panic. The car screeched, then halted abruptly, the engine coughing. Zuri's hands slapped the wheel in frustration. Cheek stepped forward, holding up the black key fob he had taken from the velvet pouch earlier. A small red light blinked on it. "I disabled it," he said evenly. The crowd erupted in murmurs again. The officer rushed forward, yanking open the driver's door. "Out of the vehicle now!" Zuri froze, her chest heaving. She looked from Darius to Nia, then back again. For the first time her confidence cracked, and then she whispered so softly only Nia caught it. "You don't understand. He promised me it wasn't just the car. He promised me everything. The car was just the start." The officer pulled her out, cuffing her wrists as the crowd gasped. Darius shouted, "Wait! Don't touch her! She's—" But his words drowned under the wail of sirens as another patrol car entered the plaza. The second envelope trembled in Nia's wet hands. The flash drive burned like a secret in Cheek's pocket. And Darius, once smooth, once confident, now stood with his shoulders caving, staring at the ground like a man watching his own grave being dug. But Nia wasn't done. She stepped closer, voice like thunder rolling low. "Tell me, Darius, what else did you promise my sister that belonged to me?" The plaza went silent, waiting for his answer. But instead of words, Darius reached into his soaked suit pocket and pulled out a folded contract, edges crumpled from hiding. He pressed it against his chest as if it could shield him. Cheek's eyes narrowed. "What's that?" Darius didn't move. He just whispered, broken, "It's the deed." Nia's stomach dropped. Deed to what? Darius lifted his head slowly, rain dripping from his lashes, and answered, "To the house." The word house cut through the rain heavier than thunder. Nia froze, her breath caught somewhere between her ribs and her throat. "The house," she whispered. "Our house?" Darius clutched the crumpled deed against his chest like a man protecting treasure from thieves. His eyes darted between Nia, Zuri, and Cheeky, wild and desperate. "I didn't mean it was only collateral, just a temporary arrangement until my deal comes through." The officer stepped forward, snatching the papers from Darius's hands. He unfolded the document under the drizzle, scanning it quickly, his brow furrowed. "This isn't just collateral," he said flatly. "This is a full transfer contract. Darius Okafor, you signed over ownership rights to an external party, effective immediately." The crowd gasped in unison, the sound sharp like a wave crashing against rocks. "Who?" Nia demanded, stepping forward. Her eyes burned with fury. "Who did you sign it to?" Darius's lips trembled. His voice was a broken whisper. "Zuri!" Nia stumbled back, rain blurring her vision. She turned sharply to her sister, who stood cuffed but still carrying that faint, cruel smirk. "You knew," Nia said, her voice trembling, her heart shattering. "You knew, and you still let me beg for money to feed my children." Zuri lifted her chin, though her voice was calmer now, almost cold. "I didn't ask him to give it. He offered, said he was tired of being invisible in his own home, said he wanted someone who believed in him." She smirked faintly. "And I did." "You believed in his lies," Nia snapped, the rage breaking through her composure. "You believed in his weakness. You believed in his betrayal, but you didn't believe in what mattered. Family." The officer tucked the deed into a plastic evidence folder. "This will have to be reviewed in court," he said, his voice official. Chike stepped forward, his jaw tight. Zuri, you're pregnant, yet you're standing in front of the mother of his children, stealing not only her trust, but her roof. Do you realize what you've done? Zuri's smirk faltered. Her eyes flicked to the crowd, then to Nia. For the first time, a crack of shame flashed across her face, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Darius collapsed to his knees, palms hitting the wet ground. His voice broke into sobs. Nia, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted to feel like I still mattered. Every day, you looked at me like I was failing, like I wasn't enough. You weren't enough, Nia spat, her voice sharp as steel, because you chose yourself over your family. You chose lies over truth, and now you've lost everything. The officer gestured to his partner. Cuff him. No, Darius shouted, scrambling backward, mud staining his suit. He looked straight at Nia, eyes pleading. Don't let them take me. Nia, please. I'm still the father of your children. But Nia stood still, her arms folded tight across her chest. The years of pain, the late nights of worry, the humiliations, all collapsed into this single moment. And she realized something she hadn't before. She didn't feel fear anymore. She felt free. As the officer bent to cuff Darius, the flash drive in Cheek's hand blinked faintly with a tiny green light. He frowned. It's encrypted, he muttered, studying it. But whoever sent that anonymous message about the envelope, they wanted us to find this. Which means... He looked at Nia. There's more we don't know yet. Nia exhaled slowly, her eyes locked on the flashing drive. A new weight settled in her chest, not despair this time, but determination. The police began leading Zuri toward the patrol car, her red dress clinging wet to her body, her chin still raised in false pride. Darius, cuffed and muddy, shouted after her, Wait for me, Zuri! I'll fix this! I swear I'll fix it! But she didn't look back. The plaza buzzed with murmurs, the crowd breaking into arguments, some blaming greed, others shaking their heads at betrayal. Nia turned to Chike. We need to know what's inside that drive. He nodded, slipping it into his jacket. I'll have it unlocked tonight. The police vehicles pulled away, sirens fading into the distance. The plaza emptied slowly, the rain finally easing into a fine drizzle. Only Nia, Chike, and the plantain seller remained under the fading storm. The plantain seller gave Nia a gentle look, balancing his tray. Sister, you are stronger than you know. Don't let their shame become your own. And with that, he walked away. Nia's knees wobbled. She pressed her palms together, whispering, My children, I must protect them. Cheek placed a firm hand on her shoulder. We will. But Nia, prepare yourself. If this deed is real and the trust funds are compromised, then losing the house may only be the beginning. Nia's heart dropped again. What do you mean? Cheek's eyes darkened. He looked toward the night sky, rain sliding across his face. If I'm right, Darius hasn't just betrayed his family. He may have signed your name into debts you don't even know exist yet. Nia gasped. Debts? Cheek nodded grimly. The kind of debts that don't wait for courts. The kind of debts that come knocking in the night. And as if summoned by his words, a black van rolled slowly past the plaza, its tinted windows lowering just enough for a pair of eyes to glint at them through the drizzle. The van didn't stop. It just drove on, silent, until it disappeared into the street's shadows. But Nia's stomach twisted with dread. Whoever those eyes belonged to, they were watching her now. What would you have done if you were in Nia's shoes? Would you forgive a husband who chose luxury over family, or cut ties completely? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The plaza was quiet now, emptied of its noise, but Nia's heart still thundered like drums at a village festival. The memory of those eyes in the black van gnawed at her. They hadn't been curious eyes. They were the kind that calculated, that measured debts in more than numbers. Cheek noticed her shiver and walked her toward his SUV. "Come," he said. "We'll talk at my place. It's safer than here." Nia hesitated, looking back at the wet ground where Darius had knelt. The image of him in cuffs should have satisfied her, but it didn't. It felt like a half-battle won, a snake wounded but not killed. She followed Chike, climbing into the SUV, the envelope and her phone clutched tightly in her hand. As they drove, raindrops streaked the windows, blurring the neon lights of the city. Silence sat between them until Nia spoke. "Cheek, why did you file that pre-notice with the trust? Why didn't you tell me before?" Cheek kept his eyes on the road. "Because I saw the signs in Darius months ago. Money disappearing from accounts, excuses piling up. I thought maybe he was gambling, maybe investing recklessly. But when I found documents with your name forged, I couldn't risk it. I acted quietly. If I had been wrong, I'd have embarrassed you both. But I wasn't wrong." Nia tightened her grip on the envelope. "And this flash drive?" Cheek exhaled slowly. "If it's what I suspect, it holds records of his secret dealings. Not just the car. Not just the house. I think Darius borrowed from people who don't go through banks. People who won't care about lawyers." Nia's breath hitched. "Loan sharks?" Cheek didn't answer directly, but the weight in his silence was enough. They reached his townhouse, tucked in a quiet neighborhood where the air was heavier with trees than exhaust. Inside, the living room was warm, a stark contrast to the storm outside. Cheeky fetched a laptop from his study. "Let's see what's on that drive." Nia sat on the couch, twisting her fingers as she watched him insert the flash drive. The screen blinked, then a password prompt appeared. A red lock icon pulsed. Cheeky muttered, "Encrypted, as I thought." He tried a few guesses, Darius's birthday, the twins' names, even Zuri's name, but none worked. Each failed attempt made the lock icon flash brighter. Then on the fourth try, the laptop beeped and the screen went black. Letters began to scroll in green, like something out of a film. "If you are reading this, then you know. Debt owed, $500,000. Collateral, house deed confirmed. Due date, 14 days. Failure to pay will result in collection by any means necessary." Nia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "500,000? Cheek's jaw clenched. "This is worse than I feared." The message continued scrolling. "Backup agreement. In case of non-payment, wife assumes responsibility as co-signer. Documents attached." The screen flickered, and a scanned contract appeared. Her own signature, forged in neat curves, binding her name to the debt. Nia staggered to her feet. No, this can't be happening. He tied me into this." Cheeky stood quickly, steadying her shoulders. "It's forged, Nia, but proving that will take time. Time we may not have if these men come knocking before the courts decide." Nia's head spun. Her children's faces flashed before her eyes, Maya's shy smile, Malik's eager hands holding his basketball. Would strangers come to her door, demanding money, threatening her babies? She pressed her palms to her temples. "What do I do, Chike? Tell me what to do." Before he could answer, a loud knock rattled the front door. Both of them froze. 3 knocks, heavy, deliberate. Cheek glanced at the clock. "No one comes here this late." He motioned for Nia to stay back and approached the door cautiously. "Nia Okafor?" A deep voice called from outside. Her blood turned to ice. Cheek didn't open the door. "Who's asking?" A pause, then the voice again, calm but chilling. "Tell her the debt has come home. 14 days is generous, but we like to check our investments early." Nia staggered back, her knees weak. Cheek's hand hovered near the lock, torn between confrontation and caution. The man outside tapped the door once more, slowly. "See you soon." Then footsteps retreated, and a car engine roared to life. Silence swallowed the house again. Nia collapsed into the couch, tears spilling freely now. "Oh God, what have we been dragged into?" Cheeky closed the laptop and sat beside her. His voice was steady, even if his eyes weren't. "Nia, listen to me. You are not alone. We will fight this. But first, we must find out exactly how deep Darius went. If he signed away your house, he might have signed away more." Nia shook her head, wiping her face. "More than our home? What else could he take from us?" Cheeky hesitated. His eyes flicked to the laptop, then back to her. "Everything, Nia," he said quietly. "Everything." The weight of his words settled in the room like a curse. And upstairs, where the shadows gathered, the laptop screen flickered again without anyone touching it. New words began to type themselves across the dark screen, as though from some unseen hand. "Next payment deadline, 7 days, interest doubled, see you sooner than you think." The air inside Chica's townhouse felt heavier than the rain outside. Nia stared at the laptop as the ominous message blinked across the screen. 7 days, interest doubled. It was like a noose tightening before her very eyes. Her hands shook. "Chike, they know where I am. How? We didn't even leave the plaza until late. How could they find me so quickly?" Chike rubbed his forehead. "Darius must have given them your details. They probably had you listed as collateral all along. That's how these men work. They make sure the family feels the heat, not just the debtor." Nia's stomach churned. "So they'll come for me, for the twins?" "Not if I stand in the way," Cheek said firmly, his voice low and hard. "I'll protect you, Nia, but we need proof, solid proof that your name was forged and that Darius acted alone. Otherwise, those men won't wait for courtrooms. They'll treat you as guilty until you pay." Nia paced the room, her wet dress clinging to her legs. "We don't have 500,000, Chike. Even if we sold the house, even if we drained everything." Cheek's expression darkened. "That's the point. You were never supposed to pay. You were supposed to lose. That's how they profit." Nia's chest tightened. Her mind replayed the plaza, the car, Zuri's defiance, Darius on his knees. For years she had thought betrayal was a wound that slowly healed. Now she realized betrayal was a trap that grew deeper the longer you ignored it. A faint sound broke through her thoughts, the creak of floorboards upstairs. Nia's eyes snapped to the ceiling. "Cheek? Are we alone here?" His jaw tightened. He grabbed a heavy torchlight from the table and gestured for her to stay behind him. They moved up the staircase, each step groaning under their weight. The house was silent except for the soft drip of rain from the eaves outside. Cheek pushed open the guest bedroom door. Empty. He checked the study. Empty. Then a faint click echoed from the master bedroom. Cheek swung the door open, torchlight flooding the room. On the desk by the window sat the laptop they had closed downstairs. Its screen glowed with another message, red this time, as if written in blood. "We see you. Nice townhouse. Pretty children. Pay, or the family suffers first." Nia's scream caught in her throat. "They've hacked in," she whispered. Cheek slammed the laptop shut, his face pale. "They're watching us, listening. We can't stay here." Before he could say more, headlights swept across the bedroom window. The low rumble of an engine idled outside. Nia's heart raced. Cheek rushed to the window and peered through the blinds. A black van sat across the street, its lights on, engine running. No one stepped out. The driver's silhouette was just a shadow behind tinted glass. "They followed us," Cheek muttered. Nia's knees buckled. "Cheek, they're not going to wait 7 days. They're coming for us now." He pulled her away from the window. "Get your things. We're leaving. Now." They hurried downstairs, but before they reached the door, a heavy knock rattled it. 3 slow bangs, like a warning. Nia clutched Cheek's arm. "It's them." Cheek motioned for silence. He picked up his phone and dialed quickly. "Yes, Sergeant. It's Cheek Okafor. I need a unit at my address immediately. Yes, possible loan shark activity. Dangerous. Please, hurry." The knocking stopped. Silence stretched. Then, faintly, footsteps retreated. Cheek peeked through the curtain. The van was gone. Nia collapsed onto the couch, shaking. "They're playing with us, like cats with mice." Cheeky sat beside her, gripping her hand. "Then we stop being mice. We fight back." Nia turned her tear-streaked face toward him. "Fight back how? These aren't people who wait for justice." Cheek's eyes hardened. "By using the one weapon they fear, exposure. We have the drive. We have the forged documents. If we can prove Darius funneled money into their accounts, then the law will have to move fast. But we need help." "Whose help?" Chike hesitated. His eyes flickered with a memory. "There's someone, an old friend from university. He works in cybercrime now with federal backing. If anyone can crack that drive safely, it's him." Nia nodded quickly. "Then let's call him." Cheek pulled out his phone again, but before he could dial, it buzzed in his hand. A new message flashed across the screen from an unknown number. "Don't bother running to the law. We own the law. 7 days is mercy. After that, mercy dies." Nia's voice broke. "Cheek, they know our every move." He closed his phone, his face grim. "Then we give them a move they won't expect." He stood, pacing. "We don't wait for them to come again. We take the fight to them. We find out who they are, where they keep their books, and we burn this whole rotten debt scheme to the ground." Nia's eyes widened. "That's dangerous. If they see us digging—" "They already see us," Cheek interrupted. "And they're counting on our fear. But fear won't feed your children. Fear won't save your home. We need to hit them where it hurts." The laptop pinged again. Against her will, Nia looked at the screen. A photo had appeared. Maya and Malik, leaving school, laughing with their backpacks. Nia's scream finally tore free. She clutched her chest. "They're watching my babies." Cheek slammed the laptop shut and held her shoulders. "Listen to me, Nia. If we don't move fast, they'll take more than money. I promise you, we'll end this. But you must trust me." Nia nodded, tears streaming. "Then we fight. For the twins. For everything." Cheek took a deep breath, his decision made. "Tomorrow, we go after them. But tonight, we keep the children safe." He pulled out his phone again, this time dialing a number Nia didn't recognize. When the line picked up, his voice was low and urgent. "It's me. Yes, it's about Darius and the debt. They've made it personal. I need your help. Now." He ended the call and looked at Nia. "They're on their way." "Who?" she whispered. Cheek's eyes met hers, steady and unflinching. "People who owe me favors. People who know how to fight shadows with shadows." Outside, the rain finally stopped. But the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the quiet before war. The rain had stopped, but the air carried that strange heaviness that comes after a storm, thick, watchful, as if the world itself was waiting for something to break. Nia sat at the edge of the couch, wringing her hands, her thoughts circling the same words over and over. "They have my children's pictures. They know where we live." Every creak of the townhouse made her flinch. Then headlights swept across the window. Cheek moved quickly to the door, peeking through the peephole. A low whistle escaped his lips. "They came faster than I thought." Nia stood. "Who is it?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he unlocked the door and opened it. 3 people stepped inside, each moving with quiet confidence. The first was a tall woman with braided hair wrapped in a bun, wearing a long black coat that brushed her calves. Her eyes scanned the room like a hawk. "Cheek," she greeted, her voice smooth but firm. "Themba," Cheeky replied, clasping her hand firmly. "Thank you for coming." The second was a shorter man, broad-shouldered, carrying a leather satchel that clinked faintly with tools. He nodded once, his eyes sharp but kind. And the third, a lean man with dark skin and a small scar across his cheek, slipped in silently, as though he belonged more to shadows than daylight. He gave Nia a slight bow of his head, but said nothing. "These are people I trust," Cheeky said, finally turning to Nia. "Themba, Ose, and Kola, old friends from university. and from another life. Themba stepped forward, studying Nia with a calm intensity. We've heard enough on the drive here. We're not strangers to this kind of mess. Loan sharks, forged debts, intimidation. They think they own fear. She sat on the arm of a chair. We know how to own it better. Nia's lips parted, but no words came. She looked to Cheeky for reassurance. He nodded. They've helped me before. Quiet work. Work that doesn't show up in court documents. Osei opened his satchel, laying out a small device that looked like a modified phone. The first thing we do is cut the feed. They're watching this house through that laptop. Maybe through your phone, too. Nia instinctively reached for her pocket, pulling out her phone like it was poison. Osei took it, his fingers moving fast. Yes, he muttered. Tracker app, cleverly hidden, but not clever enough. He tapped, and then the phone went dark. Kola finally spoke, his voice low and gravelly. If they're watching, they'll know we just blocked them. They'll move soon. Themba crossed her arms. Then we'll be ready. Nia's head spun. Just this morning she had been preparing breakfast, worrying about school fees. Now she was in a living room filled with strangers who spoke about shadows and trackers as if they were police officers in another world. Cheek, she whispered. What if this gets worse? What if the twins— They're safe tonight, Cheeky interrupted. I called Mama's house. They're spending the night there. Relief washed over Nia, but it was thin and temporary. Themba looked at the group. We need to know exactly who's behind this. Names, accounts. Darius's full involvement. We can't fight a ghost. Cheeky handed her the flash drive. Everything's here, but it's locked. Osei plugged it into his device, wires snaking across the table. Lines of code filled the small screen. He whistled softly. This isn't amateur work. Whoever encrypted this wanted to keep it away from prying eyes. He glanced up. But I'm better than most eyes. Minutes stretched. Nia stood, pacing. Every tick of the clock was a reminder that someone, somewhere, had given them 7 days, and then had cut it to 3 knocks on a door. Then Osei froze. Got it. The screen shifted. Folders bloomed open like rotten flowers. Inside, lists, numbers, documents, contracts. Themba leaned closer. What are we looking at? Osei's face tightened. Payments. Lots of them. Not just Darius. Half the neighborhood's names are here. Teachers, mechanics, even a pastor. All owing money. All tied into one syndicate. Nia's breath caught. So this isn't just us. They've trapped others. Themba nodded. That makes them powerful and dangerous, but it also makes them vulnerable. If we can prove they're running a predatory ring, we can bring them down. Kola frowned, pointing at one name on the list. Look at this. They all leaned in. Nia read it aloud. Councilman Raymond Hart. Cheeky swore under his breath. A politician. Themba's eyes narrowed. Now it makes sense why they said they own the law. With someone like him in their pocket, they can bury complaints, erase records. Nia's hands trembled. So what chance do we have? Themba looked at her unflinching. More than you think. Because once a politician's name leaks to the wrong place, the whole house of cards starts shaking. They'll scramble to cover themselves. Before Nia could answer, the lights flickered. Then the entire townhouse went dark. Themba was on her feet instantly. Generators, Cheeky? He shook his head. None here. This is deliberate. From outside, an engine rumbled. Then another. And another. Nia's heart pounded. She rushed to the window. 3 black vans had parked across the street, engines idling, their headlights off, but their presence unmistakable. Osei slammed his laptop shut. They're here. Themba drew something from her coat pocket. A small black baton that snapped open with a click. Kola slid a knife from his boot, the blade glinting faintly in the streetlight. Nia clutched her chest. What do we do? Themba's gaze was sharp, steady. We hold our ground. Tonight they'll try to scare us. Tomorrow, we take the war to them. Outside, doors creaked open. Shadows spilled onto the street. Cheek moved to Nia's side, gripping her arm. "Stay behind me, no matter what." Through the window, Nia counted them. 6, maybe 8 men stepping out of the vans, their movements slow, deliberate, like wolves circling a house. One of them lifted his phone. A voice boomed through a portable speaker, echoing in the night. "Mrs. Nia Okafor, we've come for what is owed. Come out now, or tomorrow your children will walk home to an empty house." Nia's knees buckled. Tears filled her eyes, but Themba stepped forward, her baton glinting. She looked back at Nia, her voice like steel. "Don't you dare cry. This is not the night you lose. This is the night you decide who you really are." And then, outside, the men began walking toward the townhouse in perfect silence. The night was too quiet, save for the synchronized steps of the men advancing toward the townhouse. Their shadows stretched long under the dim glow of the streetlights, silent wolves closing in on prey. Inside, the air pulsed with tension. Nia stood behind the couch, trembling, her eyes darting between Chica and the trio of his mysterious friends. Themba gripped her baton, Osei worked swiftly to dismantle any signal from the hacked laptop, and Kola stood by the door like a statue carved from stone, his knife glinting faintly in his hand. Themba's voice was low but sharp. 8 men, maybe 9, likely armed. They expect fear. They expect begging. What they don't expect, she flicked her baton open with a metallic snap, is resistance. Nia's heart pounded. Resist? Against men like that? They said they'd hurt my children. Cheek's hand pressed gently but firmly on her shoulder. And that's exactly why we can't let them win. Nia, if you bow now, they'll bleed you forever. Tonight is the line. You decide which side you stand on. Nia swallowed, her tears drying into something sharper, rage. The thought of Maya and Malik's innocent laughter being used as leverage lit a fire in her chest. She nodded. Then we fight. From outside, the portable speaker crackled again. The leader's voice boomed. Final chance, Mrs. Okafor. Come out. Hand over the flash drive, or your blood will mark this house. Themba stepped close to the window and shouted back, her voice cutting through the night. Come in then. Let's see who bleeds first. The men stopped briefly, as if surprised by the defiance. Then, slowly, they spread out, surrounding the townhouse. Osei muttered under his breath, connecting wires to a small black box. If they try to cut power again, this jammer will block their remote feeds. At least we'll keep them blind. Kola unlocked the front door just a crack, enough to watch. His voice was low, dangerous. They're splitting. 3 to the back, 4 to the front, 1 waiting by the van. Chiki turned to Nia. Stay low. No matter what happens, you stay in cover. Understood? Nia nodded, though her pulse screamed against her ribs. The first impact came suddenly, a heavy crash at the back door. The wood groaned, then another at the front, shaking the frame. Themba stood tall, her baton steady. Let them try. The door shuddered once more before splintering at the edge. A hand gripped the frame, and then the men poured in. The room erupted into chaos. Themba moved first, her baton striking like lightning, catching one man's wrist before his blade could rise. He howled, stumbling back. Kola lunged low, his knife flashing, slicing the strap of another man's weapon and sending it clattering across the floor. Osei's jammer sparked to life, filling the room with a faint hum. He ducked as another intruder swung, slamming the black box against the man's temple, dropping him like a stone. Nia crouched behind the couch, her hands pressed to her ears, the sounds of grunts, shouts, and thuds crashing around her. She wanted to scream, to run, but then she saw one man slipping past the chaos, heading straight for her. Her eyes widened. "Chaik!" she cried. Chaik spun, but the intruder was already reaching for her arm. Instinct surged. Nia grabbed the heavy lamp from the side table and swung with everything in her. The lamp cracked against his skull, sending him sprawling unconscious at her feet. Her chest heaved, For the first time, she realized she wasn't helpless. "Good!" Themba barked, shoving another man back with a fierce strike. "That's how you fight, Nia!" But the invaders were not retreating. They regrouped, snarling, circling again. The leader stepped in now, a tall man with a scar down his cheek and eyes like steel. He carried no weapon, just confidence. He clapped slowly, mockingly. "Impressive, very impressive, but this only makes it worse for you." He pointed at Nia. "She has 7 days to pay, or she'll bury someone she loves. Your choice." Nia rose slowly from behind the couch, fury burning hotter than her fear. "No, I'm done with your threats." She held up the envelope with the forged documents. "We have proof of your corruption, and we will expose every name on your payroll, including Councilman Hart." The leader's smirk faltered for just a second. "You don't know what you're saying." "Oh, I do," Nia shot back. Her voice grew stronger. "You think you own fear? You've never met a mother fighting for her children. Try me." Themba and Chiki stood at her side, weapons ready. The leader studied them, then raised 2 fingers. His men froze, waiting. He chuckled, low and dark. "You're braver than your husband. I'll give you that. But remember this, bravery doesn't pay debts. We'll be back." With that, he snapped his fingers, and the men retreated, slipping into the vans as quietly as they had arrived. Engines roared, tires screeched, and within moments the street was empty again. But the silence left behind wasn't victory, it was a warning. Nia's knees trembled, but she stayed standing. She looked at Themba, at Chike, at the broken door and the bodies of men groaning on the floor. Her voice was hoarse but steady. "This ends now. We're not just fighting for me. We're fighting for everyone they've trapped. No more fear." Cheek nodded grimly. "Then tomorrow we go hunting." Morning light spilled weakly through Cheek's broken front door. The place smelled of damp wood, sweat, and fear. Nia sat at the table with a cup of untouched tea, staring blankly at the scattered documents. Sleep had not come. Every creak in the night reminded her of men's shadows outside. But now, with the sun rising, her fear began to harden into something else, resolve. Themba paced the room, her black coat now folded neatly over a chair, revealing lean muscles shaped by years of discipline. Kola stood silent by the window, scanning the street as if expecting another black van at any moment. Osei hunched over his laptop, typing with furious speed. Finally, Osei straightened. "I cracked another folder. This isn't just a debt scheme, it's laundering. Millions moving through shell companies, and your husband," he shot Nia a sympathetic look, "is right at the center." Nia closed her eyes. "How deep?" "Deep enough that his name appears as a proxy on at least 4 accounts, Osei replied. "Accounts tied to construction contracts, fake consulting firms, and even church donations." Themba stopped pacing. "That explains the councilman. He's protecting his cut." Nia's fist clenched on the table. "So Darius didn't just betray me, he betrayed everyone who trusted him, even his own children." Chiki pulled a chair and sat opposite her. His face was calm, but his eyes burned. "Nia, this is bigger than your marriage. If we move carefully, we can bring down the entire syndicate, but it will put you at even greater risk." Nia's voice was steady. "Then I accept it. My children won't grow up in fear. I won't let these men steal another coin of their future." Themba's lips curved faintly into approval. "Good. Then here's the plan. We leak this information strategically, not all at once. Enough to shake them, but not enough to make them disappear into the dark. We draw them out." Kola finally spoke, his voice low and gravelly. "Bait them with the thing they fear most. Exposure." Osei nodded. "I can push evidence to a handful of journalists I know, ones they haven't bought yet. Not everything, just enough to spark fire." Nia leaned forward. "Do it." Hours later, the trap was set. A carefully leaked document, proof of the councilman's secret account, appeared on an independent news blog. Within minutes, it spread like wildfire across social media. By noon, the city buzzed with outrage. Commentators demanded answers. Activists called for investigations. For the first time, the syndicate was forced into the light. But exposure had its price. That evening, Cheek's phone vibrated. A new message glowed across the screen. "Smart move, but stupid. You want war? Then war it is. Tonight we don't knock. Tonight we take." Cheek read it aloud. Silence fell heavy. Nia's chest tightened. "They're coming again." Themba's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them come. But this time, we'll be waiting." Kola slipped his knife back into his boot. "We'll hold the line. But Nia, you must be ready. If they can't scare you, they'll try to break you. They'll use Darius." Nia frowned. "Darius? He's already in jail." Osei shook his head. "Not for long. I checked the records. His bail was posted this morning." The room froze. "By who?" Cheek demanded. Osei's face hardened. "Guess." Nia's stomach dropped. "Zuri." As if on cue, her phone buzzed. A new message appeared. No number, just the words. "Sister, you think you've won? You've only made enemies you can't fight. Darius is free, and he's not the man you knew. When we come tonight, we come together." Nia dropped the phone, her hands trembling. "She's with him. Still." Themba rested a hand on Nia's shoulder, steady and firm. "Then tonight, you face not just your enemies, but your family's betrayal in full." Nia swallowed hard, her fear giving way to cold steel. "Then let them come. If this is war, I'll fight it. Not just for me, not just for my children, but for everyone they've trapped in their web." Themba nodded once. "Then prepare yourself, because when the sun sets, this house becomes the battlefield." The day faded slowly, every tick of the clock pulling the night closer. Outside, the street grew darker, emptier. Inside, Nia's chest rose and fell with steady breaths. She thought of her children's laughter, of the years she had lost to silence and sacrifice, and she made herself a promise. No more silence, no more fear. And just as the last light of dusk slipped away, the first black van rolled into view. Darkness fell like a curtain over Cheek's street. The hum of crickets was drowned out by the low growl of engines. 3 black vans slid into position outside the townhouse. Their headlights flicked on one by one, glaring like eyes of predators. Inside, Nia stood tall behind the broken doorframe. Her body shook, but not from fear. This time it was from the fire inside her veins. She had run from betrayal long enough. Tonight she would not run. Cheeky and his allies moved with quiet precision. Themba gripped her baton. Osei's fingers hovered over his laptop, ready to trigger a data release if anything went wrong, and Kola pressed his ear to the wall, listening to every step outside. Then the first van door slid open. 2 men stepped out, broad-shouldered, their faces half hidden by masks. Then another 2. Then 4 more. And finally, Darius. Nia's breath caught in her throat. He looked different. His once polished suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot, but his swagger remained. He stepped into the glow of the headlights, raising his hands mockingly. "Nia," he called out, voice sharp and cruel. "My loyal wife. Still fighting shadows, I see. You should have listened to me, kept quiet. But no, you had to play hero." Her teeth clenched. "You call yourself a husband, a father? You stole from your children and gave their future away for a car and a lie." Darius's smirk widened. "Children are a weight. You were a weight. Zuri—" He turned. From the van, Zuri stepped out. The red dress was gone. She wore black now, her belly beginning to show beneath a fitted coat. Her eyes met Nia's, and for a flicker, guilt passed through them. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold defiance. "You don't understand, sister," Zuri said. "He promised me freedom. He promised me a future where I wasn't second best. You stole what wasn't yours. Nia snapped. "You stole blood." Zuri's smile was thin. "Blood means nothing when you're starving." The syndicate's leader emerged then, the tall man with the scar down his cheek. His presence silenced everything else. He stood between the sisters, his voice like gravel. "Enough chatter. The terms are simple. Return the drive, sign the deed fully, and we walk away. Resist." He gestured toward the vans. "And you lose more than money tonight." Nia's chest rose. She looked at Cheeky, who gave the smallest nod. Then she stepped forward, her voice carrying in the night. "No, I will not surrender. Not to you, not to him, not to anyone who thinks fear is stronger than truth." She lifted the envelope of forged contracts high. "We have proof. And if anything happens to me or my children, the world will see every name, every account, every crime." Themba shouted behind her, "Osei, now!" Osei hit a key on his laptop. Instantly, car horns blared up the street as if answering a signal. Dozens of lights flicked on. Cameras, drones, even neighbors stepping out with phones raised. The syndicate's threats were no longer in the shadows. The leader's face darkened. "You think light will save you?" "No," Nia said fiercely. "But it will destroy you." At that moment, police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Blue and red lights flashed down the road. The councilman's name had spread too far, too fast. The system couldn't protect him anymore. Panic rippled through the syndicate. Some of the masked men ran for the vans. Others froze, torn between orders and survival. The leader grabbed Darius by the collar. "You brought this ruin!" he roared. But Darius shoved him off, pointing at Nia, his face twisted with rage. "She did! She ruined everything! If I can't have peace, she won't either!" He charged at her, fists clenched. Chike moved, but Nia raised her hand. "No, this ends with me." Darius lunged, his voice breaking. "You should have been quiet." But Nia didn't step back. With a strength she didn't know she had, she slapped him hard across the face, the crack echoing louder than the sirens. He stumbled, stunned, eyes wide. "For years," Nia said, her voice trembling but powerful, "I carried your lies. I carried your weight. Tonight I drop it. You are nothing to me." Police vehicles screeched to a halt, officers pouring out with weapons raised. "Down! On the ground!" they barked. Chaos erupted. The syndicate's men scattered, some tackled, others cuffed. The scar-faced leader tried to run but was dragged down by 3 officers. Zuri froze, her eyes darting between Nia and the flashing lights. Then she clutched her stomach, tears springing to her eyes. "Nia," she whispered, "I didn't know it would go this far." Nia's jaw tightened, but she looked away. Forgiveness was not hers to give tonight. Darius dropped to his knees as officers swarmed him. His eyes found Nia's one last time. "Please, don't let them take me." But Nia turned her back. As the vans were seized, as the leaders were dragged off in cuffs, as the night air filled with flashing lights and shouting voices, Nia stood tall. She had been broken, betrayed, threatened, but she was still standing, stronger than before. Chica touched her shoulder gently. "It's over." Nia looked at the sky, the clouds parting to reveal the faintest sliver of moonlight. She exhaled deeply, her voice calm. "No, Chike, it's just beginning. I have children to raise, a home to rebuild, and a life to reclaim. This is not my end. It's my rebirth." Themba smiled faintly, folding her baton. "Then fight forward, Nia, because now they'll write your story not as a victim, but as a warrior." The police cars drove away, sirens fading. The street grew quiet again, and for the first time in months, Nia felt something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. If you were Nia, would you have turned your back on Darius at the end, or given him another chance for the sake of the children? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends so more people can experience this powerful story.